Dear friends, my lovely audience, welcome to the East West Show. Jack Cha with the East West with Genie TV. For quite some time, there are laws, new laws, that make people worry a lot. And about a week ago, I quote unquote introduced a law called 1810. And 2 days after, I introduced another law called AB 186. That is the safe house for the druggies.
Oh, my gosh.
Good. And there are still new laws coming out that make lots of people worry about our public safety. One of the people who are getting so worried is my friend Joe Gardner, the former law enforcement officer of Santa Monica PD for 27 glorious years. So today I have him here to share with you about his worry about California, and my worry about California, your worry about California. Everybody is worried about California. Everything, all fingers are pointing in one direction. Where are the laws are leading us? Where are the laws leading us? That's the problem. So with just said, my friend, Mr. Joe Gardner, former Santa Monica PD officer, sir, welcome back to the show.
It's always great to be on your show, Jack, and hello to your audience.
All right, good. I've never seen you in uniform, so you must look more kind of like a evil guy in uniform.
Well, I've been told that, yeah. I've been called Darth Vader and all kinds of other things. So
I see. All right. So put everything all together, how do you assess California public safety? And then we go find out what caused it, please.
Well, California public safety is eroding. You can't deny it. Our politicians will say in Sacramento that things are, this will make things better. But you and I both know in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our counties, the public safety has gone backwards, and we're now feeling, and most of us feel it, less safe. We're concerned about crime in our neighborhoods. We're concerned about violence to our fellow community members. So I think we're going the wrong way, and I'm really concerned about it, as well as many other people. I think it needs to change.
I see some numbers here that I believe you have the same thing.
Yes.
And there's the total number of incidents of the statewide and total number of incidents of LA as a county.
Yeah, well, it's actually national numbers. I brought national numbers today for gun violence. And if you look at the incidents all across the United States, there have been 40,703 gun-related
That's the number,
crimes.
this number, right?
Yes, yes. And in California, we have 17,895 of those gun-related incidents. And to give you a little recap about this week, Bakersfield, we had 5 people killed. The perpetrator committed suicide, so that's a 6th death in that terrible incident that happened in Bakersfield earlier this week.
In other words, the nation number includes the number for California.
Yes.
This is for California,
Just
okay.
California.
All right. Go ahead.
In Ontario, they had a terrible incident where one person was killed and another individual was shot. Don't know the status of that person, but the perpetrator there attempted suicide. He's still in the hospital, has not passed away. So presumably he may be held for these terrible crimes. And then the big incident this week was the evacuation of a Kaiser hospital in Downey because of a deranged man with a gun. And fortunately, he didn't use a gun, but he
surrendered.
He surrendered. He had a meltdown at Kaiser and caused a disruption to the whole hospital. Many people had to be evacuated, and very disturbing kind of crime.
Yeah. While you were talking, I did a little translation. I did a little calculation. That I was so surprised with the result. So if the national number of the gun-related violence is 40,707 versus the fact of the California, we have 17,895.
Right.
So these two numbers put together, you find out that the California number takes 44.29% of the nation number.
That's a big number. You know, it's a pretty large number, and it should be a concern to everyone.
44.29.
Yeah.
That's a huge percentage
Yeah.
as versus the nation.
Right.
Right. So, and yet there's one thing for sure, that 2008 is not over yet.
No, it's not. And the way it's been going lately, you got to wonder if that number is going to really jump up a lot higher.
So these numbers are only calculated from 2014 on up till now,
Right, to date.
up till today.
Yeah, when this website, gunviolence.org, I think it is, started this, they only started it from the inception of their the development of the website, and they started posting these annual figures, and they are interesting figures, and it creates a lot of concern for.
I see. When putting together, there's one thing that we can see of how much, right? Do we have the curve? For example, how are we accumulated ourselves to the 17,905? That's going to be so with the trend that we hear more and more about the stories of the occurrences or incidences. People are under the impression that we are, this crime rate is getting up in a very accelerating way.
Yes, it is. And I think much of that has to do is what we just talked about a minute ago is the changes in the criminal justice system, the erosion of crime, the criminal justice and people taking responsibility. We have a lot of criminals out there walking our streets, and they're apt to commit violent crimes over and over again. So very, very concerning to see that happen. I don't know if we can reverse this trend. I think it's going to require your audience to really look at who they put in state office and in the local elections to really make some decisions in how we're going to fix this, and that means putting good people.
The problem is that we don't know who did what.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when we try to look for it, and it's kind of hard to find.
It is. It is.
It's hard to find.
You can't put your finger on, it'd be nice if you could get a further breakdown about whether there is a degree of mental illness involved in some of these crimes, or is it just simply violence? Is it, felons in possession of guns that they shouldn't have in the first place? So, yeah, it'd be nice to get a drill down of these of this information.
Back to your years, your time when you were active in service, did you recall a moment or period of time that when California was doing bad as it is now?
I don't think it was as bad, and there was some pretty rigid enforcement efforts. You had task force involving many different police departments, more rigid drug enforcement efforts. I think crime and the court systems functioned a lot better, and people who committed violent crimes usually went to prison, and they paid their debt to society. So, and that was back in the mid 80s to throughout the 90s. But then, as we've witnessed, that ever-growing incremental erosion of the criminal justice system has just made things worse. So,
And yesterday on way back home, I listened that they talk about the crime versus the time served to serve, right? They're saying not only 10%. They cannot hold on to 10%. The number has to be reduced.
Right.
Has still go shorter. And there's one conclusion that for 1 year time, they say a handful of days.
Yeah.
We were talking about how many fingers we have, right?
Yeah.
So a handful, if you're not creating a law to discriminate people with 6 fingers, you're talking about 5, maximum 6 people, 6 altogether, right?
Yeah.
So, in other words, for 1 year sentence, you stay in jail for 5 or 6 days.
Then that's crazy. You can't. How does that make any sense at all? The nice part, though, is Jim McDonald, the sheriff of Los Angeles County, had a press conference yesterday in which he said that now anyone who is convicted of a gun-related crime is going to serve their full sentence. He's going to find some way to make sure they stay in custody.
Yeah, and then the conversation right away moved to the fact that talking about a gun-related crime, offense whatsoever, has to do the full time.
Right.
And then the news guys had to put their hands together to celebrate. That's a big thing.
It
right?
is, yeah.
So what is supposed to be normal? You do your time for your crime now feels like such a rare case. Right. Now, even the rare case is not guaranteed.
Right.
Because I recall the time when you talk about other crimes, they say rapers, right, has to stay full time.
Yeah.
Now you see how many are early release on the streets.
Right. Right.
They are raping at this very moment.
Right. And it's a compulsion. Unfortunately, many of those who commit multiple rapes there's a mental health component to that. They need to get psychiatric care.
They get a hobby of doing it because
and they need to be in a lockdown kind of facility and treated, and besides serving their sentences.
All right, my dear friends, my lovely audience. Today, with my friend Joe Gardner, a former Santa Monica PD officer, who I respect a lot. We're talking about public safety. With all the new laws keep on coming, keep on surprising us, we might get trained to not get that much surprised. But the community safety, public safety, security safety is really, really something at stake. We started to see with our own eyes the occurrences happening so fast, right? So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show, the GNE TV. Today with my friend Joe Gardner, Officer Joe Gardner of Santa Monica PD, where he put up 27 glorious years of service and retired with a loss of glory, retired with a loss of record-breaking service. And he never took a respite. He went on servicing the people in West Covina, in the valley, the Queen Valley, a hospital surrounding other wings. He is the president of Meals on Wheels of Queen of the Valley, right? And he is also chair of the LA County, what is that committee?
Probation
Committee. All right. So I see a person who never stops servicing the community. If we do worry about the community safety a lot, he must be the one worrying even more because he was in the business. He knew exactly how a bullet can do. All right. So now, speaking of a bullet, gun-related violence from 2014 to 2018, there are 2 statistics made by the national group. The nationwide total gun-related crimes, right, of 14 to 18 of course not over yet, is 40,703, right? And yet, to the same period and the same statistics found out that in the 40,000 something, 17,000 belongs to California.
Right.
And I did a calculation, and I was surprised that California took 44% of the total of the nation. So, you're welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
I was so carried away by the numbers when everything, of course, relates to the laws, to the punishment. Right. So, as a law enforcement officer, how do you see when you at your work, right? What is the biggest obstacles when you exercise your right to enforce the law?
I think the greatest obstacles are the changes that the state assembly did. And you talked about them earlier, AB 109, prison realignment, Prop 47, which decriminalized some felonies down to misdemeanor crimes, Prop 57, which did even more. And you also spoke about 1810, Assembly Bill 1810, which talks about getting rid of the bail system. All those things in an incremental way have really diluted the criminal justice system. As a police officer, I was all about, responsibility, justice, making sure that my community was safe. And I really feel bad for some of these law enforcement professionals who are out there to try to make the system work as it did maybe a couple decades ago. It's not working that way anymore. And the ugly truth is that the criminal court system has been diluted. The money's been taken away, siphoned away from it. Some of the resources that it needs to get people into care through the courts have gone away. And some people never make it to court. That's the ugly part of this whole mess, is that we'll have a lot of people commit crimes, and if they're meet that threshold of Prop 47 or 57, they don't spend any time in jail. They will get a citation, and they would say, come back in 30 days and you're required to appear and go through the justice system. The bad part of that is many of them don't show up. There are people out there with thousands of dollars in warrants who never show up to court because there's no incentive for them. They get the ticket and they walk away, and that's it.
Once again, the same thing. For not showing up to court itself is a crime.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, and suppose if I robbed a grocery, for that I was supposed to stay in jail for a month of my time, and I went in and I get out in the afternoon. Right? I learned one message. Right? For me, working in jail for 1 day or 1 afternoon get me a free man for a month.
Right. Exactly.
Am I right?
Exactly.
And then you want me to go back to the court for that crime violation if I violated. So you did not even make me do the full time for the violation of robbing a whole grocery.
Right.
How are you going to deal with me for one violation of simply as not showing to court?
Yeah, and that's what AB 109 did to us, prison realignment. It moved all these people down to the county jail system from the state system. But the ugly truth is we have a turnstile justice system where people don't spend any time in jail because of overcrowding. LA County Jail
we don't
is
have
busting
a jail. We have no jail.
Right. It's busting at the seams. So people do not spend any time there because the sheriff's constantly concerned about overcrowding, getting sued by the federal government because, he has too many people in the jail system. And so what happens is the lowest people on the rung of the system that commit the crimes, they will just come in the jail and right back out again.
No. If they can guarantee all the release, those are very, very minor offense, though, right? That's probably relatively a better case. You're talking about the felons.
Felons. Yeah.
Serious felons are out on the street. Hey, take Officer Boyd, for example. right? Who killed Officer Boyer, right?
Yeah.
Is that a misdemeanor offender did it? No.
Serious felon, yeah.
He was a felon. He was released.
On supervision.
On supervision. He's been in and out of jail for 5 times during 2-month period.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right? So that's a misdemeanor, the serious felon, and yet by AB 109, he is legally out on the street.
That is not justice. That is not taking responsibility. That's not protecting our community.
All right, okay. Okay, there are 2 folds, sir, in not finding justice in the justice system, right? Of course, if you lose to be judicious, right, in the judicial system, people say, hey, crimes are not punished, right? And for example, my loved ones died for nothing, right? And they feel suffocate here, so they feel unfair.
Yes.
This is 1, and 2, on the offender side. How do you, as a law enforcement officer, see the importance of punishing?
All of society is built on the notion of justice and people taking responsibility if they commit a crime. And when you don't have that, what does it create? It creates a society that decides that they're going to take justice into their own hands. Right, gun sales, for example. I don't know what the numbers are, but people go out and buy guns in large numbers now because they don't feel safe, and they feel like the only way to assure their own safety and the safety of their family is to buy a gun. We have the Second Amendment, and that's built into our Constitution. But people are fearful. They you look at the gun sales, and they're huge. It's a big number. And so what you have is you have people armed out there now in our communities, and many of them good people, responsible people. And then obviously criminals break into those houses and they steal those guns from those people, and the cycle just continues on and on. And you have people out there who will have the vigilante mentality. They will look at things and say, the police aren't going to help me. I'm going to take this into my hands.
I take the laws in my own hand.
Right.
I'll bring myself justice.
Right. And that's a huge concern. It should be a concern for law enforcement. It should be concern for your next door neighbor. It creates a lot of problems.
And then we're going back. We're rolling back into the old days, okay? Yeah. Of course, I have no training of law enforcement. I know nothing about the law, the whole thing, right? Okay. But one thing for sure, I do understand the reason law remains its dignity, remains its sovereignty, is number 1 is fairness.
Right.
Number 2 is severeness, right? So with the fair and the severe punishment in name of a law, you produce a deter system.
Right. That is the foundation of our society. If you don't have a robust criminal justice system, then society starts to go down.
You scare them away.
Right.
Am I right?
Right.
You
need
scare
to have
them away.
A robust criminal justice system that is going to send the message that crime will be punished. And
now,
people will be safe, right?
Now the crime will be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Acceptable.
Now crime will be okay.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we're going to see a situation that when the message is fully delivered, you're going to see more bad people than good. Right. My dear friends, we're gone too far. We are going too far. I don't know where to blame, what to do. So I'm just asking, where are the laws leading us, right? Or eventually. With me today is my good friend, Mr. Joe Gardner a former PD officer for Santa Monica, who I respect a lot. Let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we'll continue talking. Probably it's time we do something. Stay with us. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East West Show with GNE TV with my friend Joe Gardner. I really find out that we want to do something. We have to do something. It is high time we did something. Otherwise, everything will be too late. Looking into the numbers, we just saw the number of 17,000. We just saw the number of 40,000. When we look at those numbers inside the 17,000 of California, inside the 40,000 of the national, you feel chilled. You start the goosebumps right away, right? Yeah. So I'll leave it to my friend Joe Gardner to describe us a picture of those numbers and everything. What's in there, please?
Yeah, and Jack, I'm glad you brought this kind of information to the forefront to let your audience know, because they are pretty significant numbers. Of those 17,895 incidents regarding use of a gun violence, 6,132 people perished in those incidents, and that's a pretty large number. This is just the California
6,000.
Yes, and
by the way, a whole Iraq war, we sacrificed 4,400 soldiers.
Yes,
that's 1.5 Iraq war.
Right.
When you count,
we should be as concerned
when life count is concerned.
Yeah.
When you reach a war, you're talking about us and the enemy. You talk fight the whole war of Iraq war. 4,400 soldiers we sacrificed.
And that's a good perspective. You look at that and you think, well, it's terrible that we lost so many people in the Iraq
and domestically
war.
Ourselves.
We don't look at those numbers as we should.
Oh, good. No. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and then the number of injuries was 8,348 people who were injured in gun violence, or California gun violence incidents, and that's pretty significant. Fortunately, and there's still a number of children, 182 children that were affected by gun violence, injured or killed, and that's pretty bad in any way you look at that. Police officer involved incidents, 1,258 different incidents regarding gun violence where the police had to come and interact.
This is of California, right?
Just in California.
This is of California only, yes.
Right. So the numbers, pretty disturbing. defensive use, people who had a home invasion incident, 530. Those were related to gun violence. And defensive use, somebody on the street is going to get robbed and they're concealed carry. They carry a weapon. They had to react. That was 437.
Such as hold your ground.
Right. Yeah. California's version of that, I guess you'd call it.
Okay.
And gun accidents, unintentional shootings where maybe somebody mishandled a weapon. 461 people were injured. So the numbers, you have to really drill down to the numbers, but the big ones are the officer-involved incidents and obviously the number of deaths. That's very significant. Terrible developments.
We probably want to bring the numbers to our audiences, let them see the whole thing.
Right.
And when we read the numbers go fast, pass by the ear, would not make too much difference and make lots of sense. What I want to do, I wanted to put the numbers on magazine. On the magazine, and to let them see exactly, or if necessarily, I probably ask my graphic people to do some charts.
Yes.
To do some charts or graphics to necessarily see how bad we have been. Right.
Right.
And on the national front, what do we see?
On the national front, I don't know if your viewers could see the map here, but you can see it's pretty spread across one half, the eastern half of the United
So the orange
States.
means
That's
the
where
troubled
the incidents-
areas, right?
Yeah, the troubled areas, and as Jack pointed out, 44% of those are California related, which are along this little bit of a chart here. But you know, and you could see this information yourself. You can go to gunviolencearchive.org and read it for yourself. It's a interesting website. It has a lot of information there.
Let's go by the numbers, because we wanted to raise it and once again make it our call. Time to wake up, do something.
Right.
So now for us to see how bad it is the national front.
And the national front, 40,703 incidents related to gun violence, and the number of deaths associated with those incidents, 10,234. The number of injuries, that's a big number, 20,106 injuries related to gun violence.
Wow.
That's a pretty significant number.
1 second.
Sure.
So on the injuries, the national number is 20,000. Here we have only 8,000.
Right.
Right. That's probably where we are doing better off.
Yes.
I don't know. Or we kill, we do not kill. We just hurt them. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Children related nationwide, killed or injured 475. And they broke those down to a number of teens between the ages of 12 and 17, killed or injured, 2017. In our country, we've had 254 mass shootings. Those are the terrible ones we see occur where multiple people are injured or killed due to maybe a rogue shooter. Officer-involved incidents where an officer was shot or killed, 206. That's a pretty big number for law enforcement to have somebody perish in some gun-related incident. Officer-involved incidents, 1,551. And then home invasions was pretty high, 1,442. I mean, you're woken up in the middle of the night and somebody's pounding on your door, and they come barge into your house with a weapon. That's how what these numbers represent. Defensive use, someone who had to take action to protect themselves with a handgun, 1,265. And then unintentional shootings, accidental shootings, and these are nationwide numbers, 1,162. So, you know, a lot of gun activity out there, you know, a lot of incidents involving handguns. And
within 4 years, things were going so bad like this, right? So next thing we want to do is probably find out at the starting point, like say the year 2014, how much was that? How much that was by doing the same comparison. California versus the nation. Right. So that we will find out, or the curve that crime rate is going so much up.
How is the trend? Yeah, if it's
the
trending
trend
higher
is,
from
and
2014.
we can probably predict something from now.
Yeah.
Right. Good. So, what do you recommend people to do? So we're lost. Obviously, if we want to talk to the upper level, though, they shut their doors. There's no way to contact them.
No.
All right, and you were asking around. There's nobody who knows what to do.
Yeah, that's the sad part. And you know what? It really, people will throw the word around civic engagement, you know, where citizens get involved in projects to make things better in their community. And I think that's vitally important. You know, citizens who look at these numbers and say, you know, we can't tolerate this anymore. We need to do something in a constructive way. You know, I encourage citizens to do that. But the best thing a citizen could do is to take it to the ballot box. Who they put in office is vitally important. Who they allow to serve them, and unfortunately we have a lot of politicians who no longer have the concept in their mind that they have to serve their citizens. They just are self-serving and they do it on their own. We need to change that. Find the best person you can and put them in office so that they do the best job in your interest. So I think it's critical that we do that as citizens. Vote at the ballot box, become more informed, work with others, work with your community to make your community safe. Neighborhood watch is a good example of that, right? Where neighbors look out for neighbors and they report crimes and let the
over this weekend, I think probably I have to put together the numbers for the magazine so that by next Tuesday my readers can see what we discussed, what those numbers are together. All right. And while doing the numbers, I'm thinking about doing a percentage to compare these two numbers.
Right.
And next thing I want to do, I'll see if I can go find out the year of 2014, so that to find out our trend, the trend.
See the comparison.
The trend. Do a comparison somewhere. All right. Okay. Now. Today with my good friend, Mr. Joe Gardner, we're having a good discussion, but not good time, right? Good discussion means that we really tackle an issue that's so important, right? Everybody is on the hook, so, and the not a good time is that it is so sad to see those ironing numbers, whereas law-wise, we can do nothing. A good thing is that the November election is coming. We want to see if anybody can be voted out. Right. So let's take a short moment out. We come back. We need some advices from him, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, my poor fellow Californians, welcome back to the show. I as a Californian, I do understand the kind of state we're in, the embarrassment that we are in, and the worry we're in, and the future we talk about. With all the crazy laws, one after another, gushing out to guide us, we are feeling that we got lost. With the help of my friend, Mr. Joe Gardner, a former Santa Monica PD officer, to whom I respect a lot for his service, not only that time, but also for his time after retirement. He is traveling about the whole community, bringing food on the wheels to house, by house. And also, he is the commissioner for LA County Probation Committee, right? So, together, we're thinking about some solutions, right? There are several things we can do. One, of course, we can call the legislators to tell them that we are angry, right? And two, we can call the police department to say we're not safe or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. Except calling them the legislators, I really don't know what to do.
Well, I have some ideas, Jack, and I'll tell you, most of what citizens, I have the sense, and it's just my own opinion, but citizens are not listened to by their legislators, by the people that were hired to represent them. The citizens, the voters of this state, have a great power right in the palm of their hand. They can change the direction the state is going by being more informed and going to the ballot box and finding the very best people they can to represent them. They need to be very selective. The power is there. They can tell their legislators that they're not happy. but they can do whatever they can to work on behalf of getting someone who's better for that position and put them in office. And I think that's really where we need to go. I'm not optimistic that if you call your legislator, you're going to get any action.
Oh, no.
But I think it's critical.
I tried for several times.
Right.
I'm not satisfied. I was not satisfied.
Right.
The problem being that, number one, they want to make sure their boss is not involved. Number two, they're not providing you any information. Okay.
Right.
What I am saying of asking you for advices, I do have the third category to ask you. Right. You know, whatever they do, whatever they can do, whatever we can do or we cannot do, at the end of the day, it is you, your life, your family, your wife, your kid, their safety you're talking about. Right? How are we going to do to protect ourselves? Now that you mentioned vigilante, right? So are we really going back to vigilante time?
I would hope not. I would never.
Or are we going to, or do you recommend that Jack Chow go get a pistol and put it under my pillow or somewhere? Or what do we want? Anyway, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, no, and those are things that people do all the time because they feel like they have a need to, and I encourage people, you know, to be responsible gun owners if that's what you feel you need to do to make sure you take care of your family, protect your family and yourself, then do that. But, you know, if you possess a gun, it comes with enormous responsibility. You have to be someone who's going to make decisions that are sound and correct, and you don't want to hurt somebody unnecessarily, kill somebody unnecessarily.
Or misfire something.
Right, exactly.
Or you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, so it's a great responsibility to own a gun. I would not encourage somebody to become a vigilante, but I would understand the idea that somebody would think, hey, you know, I can't get any kind of protection here, so maybe
Let's do it ourselves.
Right, and I hope we would never get to that. I think there's still room in our society to take it to the ballot box, to put good people in office, to really put pressure on the politicians that are there now to stop all this madness, because it's madness. And I ran across some numbers. There's like 39 million people in the state of California, right? But seemingly in Sacramento, there's a cabal or a handful of legislators that have been driving this effort to dismantle the criminal justice system. So you're talking about, you can count them on your fingers who they are.
Yes. Obviously, they really have the goal to overturn the system.
Right. And they're making those decisions on they think on the behalf of 39 million people. There's something really wrong with that. They should be representing their communities, not putting forward their own arrogant ideas about how things should be, architects of society. They should be doing the people's work, and that's what we have to change.
At the end of the day, though, there must be some incentives in their mind that made them working that way.
Yeah.
Right now, I believe they themselves understand a bullet can get their lives. A bullet can get anybody's life, right? So, including their loved ones, right? Why don't they think of their protection first?
It's astounding. Why don't they? And that's the question we have to ask.
Why don't they, right?
And you can't change. Some people you can never change, but in the case of a legislator, you can get rid of them. You can kick them out of office by putting somebody else there. So that's the benefit we have. And like I said, citizens have enormous power. They just don't use it. They can make the decision to put somebody better in office.
So it looks that it is not encouraged, it's not a right to vigilante ourselves.
No.
Right. And then we really want to be a big promoter of sober-mindedness, right? Doing the comparison, so that one of the actions is that we move towards the legislator to ask them why they make the law, why they pass the law, why did him or her vote yes.
Yes, you should make them very uncomfortable. You should ask them point blank, why did you do this? How come you didn't think of my family in my neighborhood and me? How come you're not protecting my safety? And that should make them very uncomfortable. Yeah. But on the same track, you can do those in two different ways. On the same track, find that other person that's going to do a better job.
And also, at the very, very end, though, that's the last group of questions that I'm going to ask you. Mm-hmm. Suppose if we are pushed down to a very, very, very limited corner of questions, right? Say, I'm home alone. I'm being robbed. Somebody at the door, pounding on the door to get in. Right. And my wife and the kids are in the bedroom inside. Right. And I'm in the living room. I do understand it takes the law enforcement several minutes, if not tens of minutes, to get here to aid me. Right. What am I supposed to do?
In a circumstance like that, you have the right to shoot somebody if they're coming through your door. Right? You need to protect your family, and do the right thing and do it carefully. But if somebody's pounding on your door, breaking your door down, and trying to get in, and they're doing so in a violent way, then your perception is that this guy's going to kill me. I got to take care of my family. I got to protect myself. And so, in a circumstance like that, law enforcement would probably not prosecute you for that.
In other words, to keep a loaded gun in the living room where the entrance is not always a bad idea, isn't it?
No, it's not. But you have to add that different factor of keeping that loaded gun in a secure manner so that you can get quick access to it, like a gun locker.
Right. So, in the security way or in the security area that nobody else but you finds. Right. But you find it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Right? Nobody else but you find it. Right. So by that, keeping a loaded gun, is that lawful?
Yes. Yeah.
That
in
is
your
lawful.
Own home to protect yourself and your family, sure.
Okay, very good. And number two, when they were pounding on my door, though, suppose if I have the shotgun thing, right? Can I shoot behind doors?
You'd have to be very careful. Number one, you want to make sure that whoever that is not maybe a police officer responding to a call and maybe mistakenly went to your door. And I'd hate to shoot through a door and maybe hit a police officer who for whatever reason decided to come to your door. They're spoofing, right? People stiffen a call to the wrong address, and then law enforcement responds thinking there's something terrible going on. They try and break in to protect life and property. You have to be really careful. But if you can find out, and if you can make sure you listen and you hear, hey, it's not the police, it's some other guy. Maybe you have to make that decision, right?
Of course, suppose you're sure they're the bad guys, right? And then I would just assume they're standing there. Well, I shoot about halfway, so where the heads are, right?
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself.
So, am I protecting myself legally?
Yes. I'd say you are. Yeah, and shotguns are probably the least inexpensive home protection weapon sold today.
All right. I don't have to wait until the doors are open to see the individual, to shoot them one by one.
They're on your property. They made an effort to come to your door. How wide is your yard, right? From the sidewalk to the front door, how many feet? I mean, those things are factors you have to take in.
The problem is so obvious that it takes several minutes, right? 14, 13 minutes, according to the average. 14, 30 minutes before they can arrive. The 14, 30 minutes, I can be killed 100 times already.
That's a lifetime. Yeah.
That's a lifetime, right? So let's do it. And then make sure the wife and the kids stay in the house.
Right. Locked in the farthest back bedroom, away from where whatever's going on. Make sure they're locked up and secured.
I feel as a man of the house, you have to stand tall when invaders come, when intruders come, right?
Right.
So making sure they are safe and then to confront them, I want to make sure the law is on my side.
Absolutely. You
All
do.
right. So before the change,
Right.
the law is being changed. That's why we're talking about AB 109,
Every
right?
day. You can't even
All
keep
day.
up with the amount of laws that are changing.
Okay, my dear friends, before the laws change, we're lucky the law is on our side. So we're all the men of the houses. We're the, we're the one, the center. Well, anyway, while before, it's too late though, you want to probably exercise your right. When the intruders, invaders come in, you want to act like a man, right? Or you're too late, when there is no way to act, you will let, whatever you act, you get killed anyway. My dear friend, today with my lovely brother Joe Gardner, former LAPD, former Santa Monica PD officer, Joe Gardner, who put up 27 years of glorious service. We shared about the views about the laws that are pushing California to nowhere. All right, and that's the most important thing. We want to use the power in our hand to change it, but use it widely. And before that happens, though, there are little tips to give you how to protect yourself. We're over time, way over time. But anyway, thank you very much, my dear friend. Thank you for watching.